Okay, so Mark, lovely to have you here with me today.
No
And
worries.
not that we don't speak most days all day,
That's
but
true.
this is rather official interview for you. So I'm going to whiz through the questions that I've been asking all the other teachers, and we'll probably just go off on a bit of a tangent about your sort of role and how it's developed with Soul Sanctuary as well.
Cool.
So let's start with the first one. So when did you first get into yoga and why?
It's a great question. I moved back to Droitwich. So I moved back because of marriage breakup, really. And joined the gym I was basically Forrest Gump, right? So just went to the gym every day. I didn't grow a beard, not then. That came later. But I just used to run. I used to run. I used to do weights, all that sort of stuff. And so I got sort of into fitness in a way like that. And then during that period, as you do, start on the old dating apps and stuff like that. Met somebody who lived a while away. Actually, it was over like Leamington way, and not that she was mad into yoga, but she took me to a yoga class. Because she was, I think she was a PT a little bit as well, but yeah, she took me to a yoga class. She said, "Oh, do you want to try yoga? Because so yeah, let's go for it." So we ended up going to this class. I actually looked because I forgot the guy was amazing. I can't remember his name, but I looked and it's been taken over now. It's a different company, different thing. So I couldn't even tell you what it was, but I can tell you it was a Ashtanga. So I turned into Ashtanga, but a Mysore practice. So of course I turn up my first ever practice. Um, Downstairs in this basement, this cafe in the dark with all these yogis, that were floating up like butterflies and knew exactly what they're doing. I'd never even done yoga before. And it was like, right, and away you go. I was like, what? So I think I think there were some sheets. I think they must have given me some sheets. I just sort of, sort of worked my way through the primary series of Ashtanga as best I could, copying these little pictures. And I remember, I just remember being absolutely like just in awe of the whole experience. It was just something completely like it just really hit home. I just felt like really, I don't know, grounded or just like where I was supposed to be in that moment. It was lovely. And I do remember the end of that class, like got to the headstands. And like so I did three headstands. So I went up 3 times and fell over and bang like on my back 3 times because I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought, as you do when you're there. So that always made me laugh. Yeah, and it was from there really. So like obviously we didn't stay together really, but after that, I came back to Droitwich, and then sort of yoga disappeared just for a little bit. But I'd only been to like I don't know 4 or 5, maybe not even that classes, like because like just because of time and everything. But moved back to Droitwich, or not moved back, but was here and going back to the gym and stuff. And was actually a member of Soul Sanctuary teachers at the gym in Droitwich, and she was like, "Oh, you should get yourself over to some yoga." And I said, "Oh yeah, I did a bit of yoga and I really loved it." And then that's what took me over to Soul Sanctuary. Charlotte's class was the first one that I went to, and that really absolutely. I just I was going through life was pretty tough at the time. I was divorced and yeah, and it wasn't I don't know if it's ever particularly fun, but it was tough. So it just sort of arrived at the exact moment that I really needed it. And I remember I went to that first class with Charlotte, and it was brilliant. And I remember going back and I cried because it just was just exactly what I needed. It was just like life was so busy and full and just like in my head and like just, you know, court meetings and stuff like that was going on at the time that were really, was really, really difficult. So yoga just was this wonderful opportunity to make some time for me at the beginning. I mean, let's not get it wrong either. I arrived with the idea of being a bit more flexible, a bit more strong, the same as everybody else, the same as everybody does, because I came from that PT background. So, it really it was the fitness side of it that brought me into it rather than the spiritual side, for sure, definitely. But it really quickly swapped. It was really quickly that then suddenly I was like, oh, okay. And then all these other doors started open that I hadn't even really, um, you know, thought about. Well, I had in a way, but not in the way that yoga brought it to me. I've always been, sort of, I don't know how you would describe it, but
Unique.
It's unique. Yeah. Well, that probably is the word that I would have used. Yeah. And then so much of it aligned with what I, what my own sort of personal beliefs and stuff. It all started to make sense, basically. Yoga arrived, and then, the world started to make a little bit more sense to me, and it all sort of my own sort of thoughts and my own way of being. Suddenly, I was like, oh, okay, I understand now. I'm starting to understand this. I understand where we're going and what it all sort of, it all basically made sense. Yeah, all clicked into place. Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing hearing that story, Mark. And like, one of the things doing these interviews is like, I feel like I know our teachers like so well, and yet, for whatever reason, we've never sat down before and been like, so where did this actually start? Because I kind of meet people where they are, and then they just come journey, and it's so nice to hear that backstory. And I remember, like, it's funny because at that stage when you joined, so I had my business partner, and obviously with the connection to Charlotte, we were having a meeting on a Friday, and Charlotte came in and said, oh my God, I've just like had the most amazing class, and there's this new member, and like he's so special, and I feel like he really needs soul sanctuary at the moment, and it gives us like a real, this is why we do what we do, to kind of like that. So that was the first time I ever heard of you, and then I was really looking forward to meeting you in the classes. And it's funny how that goes at the studio. It's like, however many hundreds of members that we have, like, I may not speak to each one individually, but I hear about all of them.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like with you. And then I remember you coming to a couple of my classes, and you had your teacher training coming up. And that was really exciting. And then, your teacher training journey was amazing, right? And to think of you, like, it makes me laugh. I mean, what a baptism of fire, you being in that Mysore practice. So for people who don't know, Mysore is a self-practice, generally speaking, in Ashtanga, so a very traditional style of yoga. So you're left to it, you're just practicing with your teacher 100%. In the room. And if you're a beginner in that environment, that is pretty tough. That makes like being a beginner in a led vinyasa class look like a piece of cake, right? So then you did your yoga teacher training, and that as an experience, I mean, obviously I witnessed that because I was there sort of all day, every day with you, but I mean, what was your biggest learning from that?
Oh, biggest learning. So there was, I mean, it's an incredible experience, right? So, I mean, for me, it took a long time to arrive in a way. Like, I was so ready for teacher training, like a couple of years before probably, but the kids were little, and I couldn't, I had to, my energy was elsewhere, and I just knew that when I wanted to do it, I had to make sure it was the right moment for everyone, really, not just for me, but for the kids. Just needed to be a little bit older. So, and I remember I think it was so it would have been 21. It was the November of 21. I think I was going to do the online version. I think maybe the first or maybe the second. I'm not sure. Like intensive online actually it was going to be. So it was going to be a short month of online. I was like, yeah, I can make that work. The kids were just about there. And then I think, in that one or whatever it was obviously right after COVID. It just didn't really happen. I think there was only a couple of people. So we'd like, oh, we'll have to cancel it. And I was like, wow, that's all right. I'll see if I can, I was working at Sainsbury's. I'll see if I can make the intensive in-person one work. And I was like, but, Sainsbury's will never give me the time off because they'd probably fall apart without me, I would imagine. But they did. So So then, of course, I ended up on the in-person intensive training, which was So the biggest learn in that, is just, I mean, it is such an experience from like the moment you arrive to the moment you leave. I think it's, you learn so much. You get so much time, so much space. Obviously so much information. It's 200 hours of content and stuff which is there, and it's like, it's mad, like how much there is. It's just the most beautiful journey of information and energy that comes your way. I mean, there was so much in there. I remember Ayurveda, the first time we spoke about Ayurveda, because I mean, when I was younger, I had some issues, not massive, but I had some issues with eating. When I was like 17, I got sort of triggered by my grandparent saying that because I was, a little bit big, but he said that, and he was only really joking, but he said to me, if I didn't do something, I'd be fat forever. And then I instantly stopped eating. So, and I went from that to like a period of sort of real like anorexia sort of behavior that fortunately I managed to fall out of it really without any sort of intervention. I saw a video of myself on my 17th birthday party when I had to put my belt around the front and all the way around the back to tie up. And I was like, I looked at myself on the video and went, I've got to do something, because this isn't, this is not where I need to be. So yeah, I was really lucky in that way. But yeah, so when we spoke about Ayurveda, I remember that really hit home. So Ayurveda being like the sister science of yoga, so it's more like the science of life. So a lot about diet and your constitution and stuff like that. So that one really, I'd never even heard of it before, so that really resonated with me. That was mad. And then just learning the practice. When I was at school and growing up, I wouldn't talk in front of people. I was terrified. I got maybe a little bit of dyslexia in there as well. So like when you were still up in front of the class and being told to read out from a book, I just couldn't do it. It was really hard. And then, my English teacher at the time would then throw rulers and stuff at you and lock you in. I never got locked, but she would lock people in cupboards and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a true story. But so it led me to, I never really spoke in front of people. It was something I actively avoided, through life. And then, you do your teacher training. I mean, obviously, if you're going to plan to be a teacher, you're probably going to have to talk in front of people. So, obviously day one, you get people up and, you're up and you're teaching the class. So, one of the massive lessons I learned there is that I could do that. And you know what, at the end of it, I'd quite enjoy it. But I would never, if you'd have asked me 20 years ago, I would never have believed that. So that was like a big learn, actually, in the way, that, as you say all the time, is that you are enough. And I really learned that it doesn't matter, if you get it wrong and if you stumble and, if you don't get your words out, it's okay. So that was like a big, like, personal learn for me, really, of like undoing quite a long period of not doing that, and sort of learned behavior and sort of fear, really basically based back to fear from school. That's what that was. It was sort of school trauma that led me to not want to lose my voice, really, I suppose, a little bit in public anyway. But yeah.
Amazing. Like, you've exemplified so perfectly why it's such a powerful training. Like, it's, so common that people just go, oh, it's amazing, and they can't quite pinpoint why. But I think like those two examples of these like deeply rooted thought patterns, what we call samskaras, as that stay with us quietly, impacting us enormously.
Yeah.
And then, when you get that time and the space and the tools to kind of dig those out, bring them into the light and go, where's that come from? And like, how's that holding me back? And then learning to step over it, and then seeing who becomes as a result of taking that barrier down is like absolutely remarkable. I just remember you on that training, Mark, like the only word that I can like really bring to mind is just peaceful.
Yeah.
I just felt like you were so peaceful in that training. I know there was turbulence going on, but even through that was just this like sense of like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I think we joked about that, how calm you were in like check-ins and things like that a lot of the time, and that maybe that's where the mill pond yoga,
it is where the mill pond came from.
You were just that real steady, like,
yeah.
And everyone has a different journey. And the fascinating thing about your group, because you're right, we didn't have enough people in that COVID period, and then straight after COVID we had 2 bouts of training
that's right.
back. So we had your group and another group, and usually we used to just do 1 a year, and that was 2 within the space of like 1 summer. It was really busy. And your group, you had this real mix of big personalities, and we've already interviewed Greg, but it was like, exactly the same training, and the response between like all of you and how you react to that training was so different.
Yeah.
And Greg had a pretty emotional journey. Yours was pretty peaceful, but the relationships that you all created during those individual journeys was like really tight. Every year they fight, like they've got they're just meant to be together. And now like we get that, right? We know that people are supposed to be on the trainings they're meant to be on, but yeah, your group was really tight knit, and there was so much humor, I would say, as well.
Yeah, and it was interesting because like it was a 50-50 split as well. So it was 3 girls, 3 boys on mine, which is not how it normally is. It would be great if it was like that normally, but yeah, so it was just an interesting dynamic, I think, because it isn't normally like that. So yeah, and yeah, well, I mean, we all still chat. Even now, what was that? 2022 was when we qualified, so we all still chat. And well, I mean, still three of us still, so three of the six teach at the studio. So you know, we all sort of hung around.
You did. You definitely hung around. And the beauty of it as well was that, I mean, when I hear you saying that, like you had to kind of pick your time carefully as to when you PT because of your children. And it was funny how our relationship kind of developed. So even before the training, I remember like, obviously because of COVID, we were trying to take everything online, weren't we?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You were so great as a member. I'd be like fumbling around at the front. You'd be like, "Oh, I used to like work on the Apple desk. I was like, I can do a bit of this." And you'd like come in and like help sort out the tech.
Do a bit of tech. Yeah, yeah.
I was like, "Oh God, there's so much that you could like help us with." And I remember being like, "Oh, like if you need help, I'm here." And in my mind, I'm thinking like, "Well, I have a baby coming. There's so much help I'm gonna need." And so yeah, we very like gently kind of suggested like, well, you know, I will definitely be needing help, so like let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
And then like what that's led to now, which is you basically being like full-time studio manager, me now 2 kids later, and the first one that we're talking about now being like, you know, 4, is just what a journey that's been, right? And your involvement has been incredible.
Yeah, we just clarify just for everyone that I'm not the father as well. Just
no, that is true. Yeah, this is Mark, not
it's
Adam.
a bit ambiguous, that moment.
Yeah, and then we got married. No. Oh yeah, good point. Good to clarify that.
Yeah,
no, so your involvement in the studio has been incredible since then.
Yeah, well, that was it. So I used to come to your Tuesday morning classes. Like every week. That was my day when I was coming at the time, just once a week, really. I was a bronze member. And then it's sort of, we started chatting about, you know, where that was going, and obviously that there was a baby on the way, and you know that you know we could then maybe look at working you know, into the studio. And obviously my goal was that one day I wouldn't work at Sainsbury's. I hadn't really got that as I hadn't really got a plan of how that would happen, really, other than at some point, because I was working, because I looked after the kids full time, obviously, just as a single parent. So I just worked 2 days with Sainsbury's, but I didn't really have any. Oh, no, that's not even true. I had no inclination to go and do that anymore. So, you know, at some point, you know, it was going to make sense for me to invest my energy into something that was, you know, worthwhile. And I just, for me, felt like Sainsbury's, you know, love it. You know, it's very important, but probably wasn't where I wanted to put my energy. So it's just interesting that moment when really you know, life was, you know, the kids were getting older and I was starting to think about what I could do. Then obviously, you know, we started having conversations around, you know, well, you know, this is happening in the studio. Maybe, you know, we could start working on that and seeing where it goes. So it's, you know, as the universe often always does, you know, it sort of arrived at that right moment for me to go, actually, well, you know what, I can. You know, a couple of years before I'd have gone, well, I can't really do that now. But, you know, in that exact moment, it was like, well, actually, you know what? Well, I'm in the right place now for me to start to work into that. You know.
And it was magic as well. It still is, Mark, like working with someone so closely that has been a stay-at-home parent that knows the intricacies and the volume of time and emotional like capacity that demands.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a moment where I can't go, Mark, I've got like one tugging at my ankle and the other tugging at my arm, like I just right now I can't do it. And you're like, yeah, I've got this. And that is invaluable. And it's amazing how both our like life experiences at that point
100%
way of working, which is just so easy breezy, at least from my side.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think, you know, it's that, you know, I understand, you know, I've walked the path that you're on, you know, as far as the kids go. I know what it's all about. So, you know, it's I mean, it's the most beautiful and wonderful and amazing journey you'll ever have. But also, it's like it's hard work too as well. It's tough, you know. It's really hard. It's hard to find time. So, you know, you definitely need people around you that can sort of, you know, understand that and pick it up when it needs to and whatever, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm so grateful for that. And so now, like you're teaching, I mean, you have evolved, I would say. It's funny, like we laugh because it was by chance that those first few classes that you came to the studio when you were still very much kind of like shortcut fitness night
PT.
Mark.
Yeah.
PT Mark, yeah. And we had like a photo shoot done at the studio. So a lot of the like stock imagery that we had, like real short shaven, like PT Mark.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure you won't be offended by me saying that, you know, a lot has changed in that time.
A little bit, yeah.
The evolution of Mark has changed. Not to mention the length of your hair, which is, I feel like, is kind of representative of your spiritual journey, Mark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the hippie was always there, right? So the hippie was always there, but he was tucked away at home. So I was an inside hippie. So I'd be like, you know, I would dress not quite like this, but you know, there was like some like Thai fisherman trousers that used to get worn at home and like whatever, you know, and I'd wear them out. I just didn't really wear them out. I don't even know what, I don't know. I just didn't, you know, and then obviously did my TT, and like, I look at the photos now, the photo of me, I look like I'm on like on a school trip, getting my award for qualifying. I'm like, who's that? I'm like, short hair, little blue top, you know. And I'm like, it just makes me laugh so much. So I genuinely look like I've come up from like the middle school on a day trip to come and see how to run a studio. So funny. And then, yeah, so it's fair to say that since that point, yeah, I've changed a little bit.
Yeah.
like unrecognizable change. So now the inner hippie has very much found his way to the outside. Yeah, most definitely. And now I'm wearing 5-finger shoes and, you know, and walking barefoot everywhere and, you know, all that stuff. And it's just, yeah. And it's like, you know, when that momentum starts, you know, you're away. Yeah, it's definitely true. And like, we've said for ages, like walking around Druitt, which is really funny because like it's not renowned for its hippie culture, really. But so I do stand out. When I used to walk to school, my daughter would be like, "Oh, is your dad the carpet man?" I'm like, "What do you mean the carpet man?" Because of course I'm wearing patchwork tops. They're like, "Oh, you think he works at a carpet shop and he's wearing the products?"
Oh my gosh, it's been a joy actually to see that, Mark. And it's funny, like we say on teacher training, like, you know, you don't have to go that way. Like some people do, some people don't. And then you're walking and you'll be like, but I did.
Yeah.
But it has been so beautiful to watch that. And also like your style develop. So how ironic that your first class was like a Mysore Ashtanga practice. And now fair to say that like you love your Ashtanga, right? And you definitely see and feel a lot of that even in your Vinyasa classes.
Yeah. So 100%, like you know, Ashtanga is a massive part of my yoga. I'm an Ashtangi for sure, you know, it's in there. And it comes across in my classes. Yeah. So I teach, so it's a Vinyasa. I always get like, I'm trying to invent a word like Vintanga or something like that. So, you know, it's Vintanga really. So it's a flow class, but yeah, heavily or massively influenced by Ashtanga, by, you know, like the whole of it. I mean, yoga in itself resonated with me. Else, obviously, I wouldn't be here, would I? But you know, but I mean, Ashtanga in particular, just really even beyond that, really beyond Ashtanga, just the sort of the heritage and the history and the ethos, the whole like the deeper bit of it. Like I read a lot and all that sort of stuff, as you can maybe think. But yeah, it's so important to me, all that behind it, that actually that sort of comes into my practice, and it comes like through maybe Ashtanga because it's like a traditional practice. But you know, so yeah, definitely the Ashtanga comes into the Vinyasa, and then with a little bit of yoga philosophy maybe in there somewhere, with a little sprinkle of philosophy along the way.
And some sound. You're known for a little bit of tinkling around at the end with some sound, aren't you?
I do like to tinkle around with a little bit of, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I drive a Mini, but I'm having to contemplate that as a choice. So as soon as you start getting some sound bowls and cymbals and, you know, and everything else, yeah, suddenly the Mini isn't big enough. But yeah, I do. So I love a sound bath. And not that I offer a sound bath, because that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I have a few bowls at the end, and I just think, for me, like in you know, as in a sound bath, or at the end when you're in Shavasana, or whether you're in a sound bath, that moment of being in sound, I've always just found that just the most magical place to be. I mean, of course, it's different for everyone. So Claire, my partner, went. So I was like, "Oh yeah, come on, try a sound bath. They're amazing." And she went to one and went, "Oh, I don't like that." don't know what that was about. So, and she's actually has come back to him a few times since then, and has been okay. But whereas I was like, yes, it's the best thing that's ever happened. She was like, whoa, no, thanks. But yeah, I love that sort of journey really that a sound bath takes you on, because it brings your frequency down, and then you start to then just trying not to get too woo, but you just go on this little just journey, even if it's just rest. Like sometimes the journey is just rest. But I just I love that in a sound bath. That's not quite, I wouldn't by any means say that's what happens at the end of my class, but I certainly have a few little instruments around at the end that I might just give a little dong on just to help a little bit.
It feels like it's just a marker from how far you've come from PT, Mark. Not saying that it's better or worse, just that there's been a journey from PT Mark to you offering your sound at the end of your semi Ashtanga class, right?
Yeah. Well, that PT journey for me was really important as well, really, in a way that it really helped me in my teacher training. So I did, to tell you about the PT, is I was just gymming it. And I was, there was a friend at the gym, and she was like, oh, well, that because I was on working tax credits and stuff at the time, looking after the kids, they were like, oh, well, the government will actually help you to retrain. I was like, oh, well, okay. So this sounds really interesting. So we ended up finding this place in Birmingham. We went for 2 weeks, did the PT training, and it was, I was really fortunate that actually the government helped me out to do that, to try and sort of develop my career further. So of course I got this qualification as a PT, learned loads about anatomy and stuff and all that sort of stuff, which really, really helps.
Yeah.
And I landed back in, sort of 2020, just as the gyms all shut. I'm a PT. Oh, everyone's gone. Oh, and then it never really happened. The PT thing I never actually PT'd anybody really, because the gyms all shut. And then by the time, so that was it. I was like, yeah, PT, oh, you've all gone. And then of course we all got locked down and did that whole thing that we had to do at the time. Came back out the other side. But in that period of time, yoga had really started to really take over. So although I'd already started my yoga journey before, it was really, it really started to sort of become part of me at that point. So when I came out of, the other side of that, and then it's like, well, it's TT for me now. So, the PT, and I was like, well, you're going to do PT? I'm like, well, no, not really, because I don't see that's where I want to go now. But it was when doing the anatomy with Cal on the course and stuff like that, it was great because I'd got this, this sort of knowledge, this sort of foundation of knowledge about anatomy. And it also in my classes, because I've got that sort of foundation of anatomy in there, it does really help. And it, with my style of teaching, how I like to teach it, it really is really beneficial. So the PT, although it never happened, was a wonderful opportunity that helped me on almost this journey.
100 hour, your pre-100 hour.
My pre-100 hour, yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think as well that's really reassuring for people to hear that, not to feel bad about doing a course and not necessarily then, doing that thing. Just doing the steps to do the course actually took you to the next thing, which was the thing. If that's
100%.
That all being part of the relevant steps that you need to take, and it not being, anything negative if some of those steps don't fruition into something in and of itself. But yeah, well, and now, Mark, so now what does life look like for you since working at Sainsbury's, and now what are you up to?
So now, well, I mean, Sainsbury's has gone. Hey. That's been, blimey, that's got to be coming up to 2 years now. Must be. It'd be 2 years this year that I haven't worked at Sainsbury's. And I mean, who knew it? They are still going. It wasn't me that was keeping it together. Although there was a lot of substitutions on my delivery this week, so maybe it was me that was keeping it going. So started off sort of really light touch, I guess, with the studio. So it was just doing a little bit, and then over time, as we've managed to sort of grow the studio, now eventually there was that tipping balance when Sainsbury's could go, and then now I work or manage the studio full time. Keeps me pretty busy. There's a lot that goes on in the background that it's like that. What's the analogy of is it the duck, isn't it, on the pond, which is really still on top, but the feet are like, yeah. It's a bit like that sometimes running the studio. So sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're like, oh.
Yeah, where's everyone gone?
Where's everyone gone? And then the next day you're like, oh no, it's okay. There they are. So
Yeah.
yeah. So running the helping to run the studio is one thing I do. Obviously still teach. So teach 2 classes a week, Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings. So like a slower Tuesday morning, more dynamic Wednesday, a little bit interchangeable, depends on who's there, and the guys who come on a Tuesday, they know what's happening. So yeah, there's a bit of interchange between them as well. So yeah, do that. And then
You support on our teacher trainings now too, right?
yeah, so TT as well, and that's coming up. So I mean, that's what an absolute joy and like privilege that is for me, like to be now the other side of the thing, and like seeing the journey, and like being on a TT or doing my 200 hours was just like the best experience like ever, because it's brought me to be where I am now, and I learned so much and met great people and had an absolute blast, and all that sort of stuff. And then now I'm doing the TT, it's even more magical, because like sitting the other side is just the best thing, because like the reason I taught yoga, like the fundamental, why did I want to do my TT and why did I want to do my and teach yoga, was just that I just wanted to help one person. That was all. That was the goal I set myself out at the beginning, was if I could just make a difference to one person the same way that yoga had made a difference to me, then that's enough, really. And fortunately I think I've probably maybe done that now, hopefully along the way, but also then adding then the TT side of it too, like to then, because you just sort of propagating that journey of now you can then make those, help those people, then help more people, then suddenly like the whole world's getting better because of this tiny little bit. So yeah, helping on the TT is just an absolute joy from day one to when they qualify. Day one still my favorite day, probably, because I always go and do the car park and open the gates, and then very much like me arriving as a little PT on they all arrive, they're like, ooh, and it's okay, and then they go and walk, and then like I always love and I always talk about it right at the end of the TT, and they go like, do you remember when I saw you on day one? And then because they change so much in whatever that period of time is, depending on what course they're in. But yeah, to share that journey with people is such a privilege. Like I'm so lucky to be able to do it.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like I still feel like that. We've been running these teacher trainings now for like over a decade. It's coming up like 12 years, I think now. And I remember like obviously each and every one of those people on those trainings, and we've never taken more. I think 17 has been our maximum. You had a small group of 6, because we did 2 trainings back to back, which was 12. But it's like every year there's roughly 15 people that come through, and now we have the online trainings as well. So we've got like 50 people on the online training going all the time. And it's exactly that. It's like when I started teaching yoga, or when I felt the impact of yoga on me, and when I was in like deep depression, anxiety, like really bad place, and it helped me. I had the same thing. I was like, I've just got to help people. I just want people, anyone who feels like me needs to know that yoga works. Right? For me, like I'd never connected those dots that like a stretch class could help me out of all that like internal like pain. So I was like, right, that's gonna be my thing. I want to share that. And it was like, you fill a class like maybe 12, 15, 20 people at a time. You're like trying to get this message across, trying to like change the world, like 15 people at a time. And then it was like, what if I could train people to teach this way, bring the psychology in, so that it's real focused on like really helping your mind and stepping out of your own way and being who you want to become through yoga. Like, what if we could teach people to teach that way? And then we're getting like 15 people at a time, all teaching 15 people, and then that multiplies. You really feel like it's coming across. It's exactly the same feeling that I had still, like, and you're right, that first day it's like too much, and we haven't set group boundaries, so I can't give them like the biggest hug that I want to when they walk the door.
So it'll be all right.
But everything in me is just like, oh my god, I know what you've got ahead of you.
And I know it's so exciting,
okay, and it's gonna be more than okay, and like it's so exciting to see. Of course they don't feel like that, like you didn't feel like that, like I didn't feel like that on my first day. You're just bloody terrified of what you're about to walk into, but you know, you've got all of us like smiling at the front, like, this is it.
I was all right my first day.
Mill Pond.
Mill Pond. I was like, how are you? No, I'm all right.
Yeah,
I'm all
I
right.
remember.
Just felt, just I was like, no, this is exactly where I need to be. Yeah.
So it is different for everyone.
So funny, isn't it? But you do see a lot of people like like too nervous to even reverse the car in the car park, like
100%. Well, I've had all the pre-emails of like, are you sure I'm not too old? Are you sure I don't need a bolster? Are you sure that this is the right parking? Like, and so by the time they've like found the car park and they're in the car park, it's like, oh my god, I'm actually here. I know, because it takes a lot, right, for people to get there to start off with. Oh yeah, and every year we have like a couple of no-shows because it's just too much.
Yeah.
They usually come back a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And all of that is right at the right time. You know, it's about trusting that. But if you can find the bravery to step into it, like, you know, they say the universe rewards the brave, don't they? And my God, like, don't we see that? Like, where people go, it's just remarkable, right?
Yeah, and that's it, I think. And I think, you know, it's just fear, isn't it? It's fear of the unknown. So you start, you know, you've got this best intention to be like, I want to, you know, learn, not necessarily even be a teacher, because of course you can do this course without, you don't have to be a teacher at the end of it. It can just be a voyage of discovery of whatever you need it to be, really. That's the thing. Same as yoga. It's what you want it to be. But but it's still, whichever way you're going with it, there's that fear, isn't there, of the unknown. So fear of change, fear of what might be. So it is a lot for people to arrive on day one. So always, like, you know, like you say, like we're at the front, like, and they're all like, and it's like, it's gonna be amazing. So but then like just watching them, like the first thing is like just letting go a little bit, because everyone comes in and say, like, the world we live in, everyone's like, gotta hold on to everything, gotta hold everything tight, because I've got to keep it, if I can't let go of stuff, because everything will fall apart if I'm not holding on really tight. So you just see people start to let go a little bit, and just, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, and then and then they start the journey, and it's it is a wonderful thing.
That's a great way of putting it. And even those hardest days, like Greg shared some of his hardest days, bless him. He was sitting outside in the rain and like building his little stone wall of pebbles, just like had felt like his world had come crumbling down at the moment. And even now, like, he looks back and he's like, that was such an important moment for me. And I had to get to that point to get through it. And like, even the hard parts, the bits that you're probably scared of, are like where the gold usually lies. You know, when you learn that it's okay, you know, you take the mask off the scare, you know, like when you're watching that scary film, is what I say, isn't it? And it's only scary because you can't actually see the things doing the thing.
You
go, oh my god, is that
it's all right?
It's like we have those moments where we go, okay, this is it, and it's all right, and I come back today and I learn to get through it. And then you have faced that deepest inner fear, and the rest is kind of easy from there on in, right? So they're all important, all of the moments. And it's lovely to have you supporting those trainings now, Mark. And obviously, you know, doing the best job in the world at just keeping the wheels on the studio whilst I navigate my small humans, and try and input as much as I can. But just super grateful for you, and so glad that you joined us on the journey that you've been on.
Well, no, I mean, that is all right. I think, you know, really, well, just beginning, like, I'm doing my 500 hours now. So like when you start, you know, like there's just, you do your 200 hours and it is like the best, the most amazing. There's so much information, so much knowledge, so much, just like everything is the most wonderful thing. But then sort of as you go through your then journey, you take that with you, then start to like scratch a bit more, and then you're like, oh, okay, there's more. Then so now doing my 500, I'm doing a little bit of Ashtanga. I thought as the 500 hour wasn't enough, I just add a little bit of Ashtanga training on top at the same time. So I'm doing that at the moment too.
Nice.
So it's just it's a joy, really. And that 200 hours was really the catalyst that sort of opened the door to like everything for me. You know, like whether it's like I said, whether it was about being able to talk in front of people, or whether it was about teaching, or whether it was about like learning more about myself, whether it was about, you know, learning more about, you know, the deeper knowledge of yoga, or whether it was more about yoga, whatever it was, it all came from, you know, turn up on day one and parking the car and sitting down on the mat. You know, all started there, really. Or, well, you could go back. It really started from my first, you know, coming to Soul Sanctuary was the first moment, really, that when I went, well, this is right, you know, this is the place I need to be. But, you know, TT wise, it was you know, that first day sat on the mat.
Yeah.
Like I was on a school trip.
Oh, well, we're so lucky to have you, Mark, and thanks for sharing some of your
That's all
journey with
right.
us today. So when and where can people find you then to come to your classes?
So, Soul Sanctuary, I'm there Tuesday mornings, 10:30, Wednesday evening, 6 p.m., hour and 15 on a Wednesday evening. So a little bit longer. So if you fancy a little bit longer, maybe there's a little bit of sound at the end of it. I'd like to say I'll give you a massively longer Shavasana, but I don't like to break promises. So,
Oh, well, it shouldn't be missed. I know your classes are wonderful. And yeah, we look forward to seeing lots more of you soon, Mark.
all right. Lovely to chat.
And you.